Minister, I would like to thank you this morning for inviting us round to speak to you, and I'm grateful for this opportunity of explaining the problems which we're experiencing with artist resale right. My team and I are small dealers, we're not large concerns, and we've come because we as individuals find that our businesses are threatened with extinction by these harsh and very difficult new laws. Minister, the industry is bleeding. It is an accelerating factor which is having devastating consequences as far as we are concerned. When we received your letter, there was one sentence which upset us a great deal. Whoever wrote this letter for you, I'm sure, completely failed to understand the significance as far as we were concerned. What the letter said was that as an industry segment of 8 billion, we represented 0.0375% of the total. What this suggested to us was that we were insignificant and we didn't matter and we were perhaps expendable. Minister, we are not expendable, we are important. Our wives, our children and our livelihoods are important, and we have worked very hard, in my case for over 25 years, to build successful businesses and do not mean to allow them to be extinguished by a harsh, perverse and unfair EU directive. We were very angry when we read that letter, but perhaps on more rational consideration, we understood that perhaps you didn't understand the depth of feeling which was behind it and the harsh and unpleasant effects it was having on us. And for this reason, we welcome the opportunity of coming to see you and tell you exactly what it's about, in the hopes that you, who we know to be a reasonable and calm and helpful person, will do something to assist us. First, I should give a word about what we're not discussing this morning, because we wish to stay entirely focused on two particular aspects of this problem. We are not discussing distortion of trade. We are not discussing the moral right of living artists to receive artists' resale right. We are not discussing the moral right of deceased artists to receive artist resale right. We are not discussing how the heirs of artists like Picasso and Matisse take the lion's share of artist resale right. Unfair and objectionable as these things might be, we are not here this morning to discuss them. What we are here for is to discuss two things and two things only. We wish to impress upon you the extreme damage this legislation is having on small businesses like ours, and we wish to explain to you how the laws are not fit for purpose and totally fail to accomplish what was set out for them when they were incepted by well-meaning people who failed to understand the implications of what they were doing. Minister, in your letter, you highlighted two safeguards which you thought were going to somehow ameliorate the damage which it was causing to us small businesses. The first, you said, was that by putting a cap on the maximum royalty of €12,500, it was going to make life a lot easier. Well, whoever wrote this letter for you, Minister, had absolutely no idea about our businesses. We are not large businesses, we are not multi-million-pound concerns, and I can't remember the last time I sold a picture for more than €50,000. Minister, that particular safeguard has no bearing as far as people like us are concerned and is totally irrelevant. The second feature which you mentioned in the letter, once again, has little or no use as far as small businesses like us are concerned. You talked about the bought for stock exemption. Well, the reality is it used to happen in the good old days before artist resale right that dealers and galleries would buy large numbers of pictures from their artists to help them along and to aid their cash flows. Alas, today, that's all finished, simply because they do not wish to have the problem of payment of artist resale right at some future time if they fail to sell them quickly, and consequently they're taking these works now on sale or return and not buying them for cash. Frankly, this benefit has little or no use as far as we are concerned. In 2005, Minister, Lord Sainsbury stated in a statement, he said he wondered if the administration costs of the artist resale right were going to be in excess of the benefits which they were actually conveying to the artists. Well, he went on to say that 85 to 95,000 artists in this country, and it was going to make a huge difference to them and their living standards. It was suggested that perhaps 50% or so of them would take a benefit from the imposition of this new royalty. Well, the reality, Minister, is very different from this particular situation. In a question to you recently, Lord Brooks asked the number of artists in the €1,000 to €3,000 threshold who had taken benefit in this country. And the answer, Minister, which you gave, was 436 in year one and something similar in subsequent years. Minister, 436 is very different from 50% of 85 to 95,000 artists. About 2% of living British artists have benefited from artists' resale right. And of those, the lion's share of that 2% are those who didn't need it because they made plenty of money without having to take extra from dealers and galleries. Minister, the whole object of artist resale right has failed, and it has displayed a complete lack of fitness for purpose. The biggest problem we have as dealers, Minister, is the issue of double payment. We buy something and we pay artist resale right at 4% when we buy it. We sell something and we pay 4% artist resale right when we sell it. We have lost, Minister, upwards of 8% on each and every transaction. That is a whopping 8% of turnover. But suppose we make a profit of 25%, which is quite normal in the industry. We have lost a gigantic one third, Minister, of that profit has been taken away from us at the very beginning, before any tax, by this accursed system. It is ruinous to us and our industry. Lord Sainsbury started off by saying the administration costs were too high. But in 2006, in the Lord's debate, he had been briefed by our good friend Dax. And he came out and he said, in his view, Minister, the administration costs was something in the region of £1 per entry. Other noble lords in the same debate thought this was cloud cuckoo land. They suggested he had no idea about how things cost and how it worked. Their sarcasm was not misplaced when they said they once thought he had been a businessman. There have been, Minister, several studies on the question of the cost of artist resale right administration. There was one which was done by my own professional organisation, LAPADA, which suggested it was in the order of £25 per entry. There was one, Minister, which was done by BAMF, which suggested it was in the order of £28 per entry. Myself, I think it's rather more than that. Let us say it's about £30. I think that probably sums it up rather fairly. Well, let's look at a deal of €1,000, Minister. Let's look at the pluses and minuses of who wins and who loses on a €1,000 deal. On a €1,000 deal, taking into consideration the administration costs and taking into consideration the actual cost of artist resale right, the dealer has lost, Minister, a whopping £94 on his €1,000 deal. And the artist, Minister, what has the artist won? Well, the artist has taken his 4%, but unfortunately he's lost 15% of that to Dax Commission, and he has got, Minister, a paltry £27.20. I'll say that again, Minister. The gallery and dealer has lost £94 and the artist has won £27.20. Well, the only mitigating circumstance is when we abolish the smaller threshold and it goes up to €3,000. And there, the position, I'm afraid, is better, is more favourable, but it isn't good. The figures are as follows. The dealer has lost £222 and the artist has won £81.60. In percentage terms, it does actually favour us, but it's still a whacking and inconsolable loss on the transaction to a small dealer and potentially absolutely ruinous. Minister, I'm a Conservative. I've always carried a Conservative card. I'm a hard-working, industrious sort of fellow, and I do my best to provide for my family and friends. Many dealers will go into liquidation and bankruptcy because of this legislation, but you, as a Conservative minister, should help us because we are deserving and hard-working people. We have asked that you remove the threshold from €1,000 to €3,000 on the estates of dead artists. It is in your gift to do so, and there are no moral rights or moral objections against you helping us. If you must do one thing, you must do that. We would like, Minister, the threshold raised on everything. Minister, I've stated my case. I'd like to thank you for listening to me, and I do sincerely hope you will help me. Thank you very much.